Well, what about metal-free fixation? There's a couple companies out there. ConMed has their carbon fiber plate. Osseo has the bone screws, maybe
Yeah.
for lack of a better term. There was the Ionomed, I think I said that right, that has Inion, Inion. And I'm sure there's others that I'm missing. What are your thoughts? Do you think that's a fad? Do you think that's something that patients will start coming asking specifically for that?
Well, let me just back up and joke with you a little bit and say that, for the audience, you created this incredible PowerPoint, or not PowerPoint, but spreadsheet of vendors A to Z. And I told you I got to F, so I can't help you on the Indian. But I'm so excited to do the loop and the lap a few times to find the Buxtons and to find, maybe the niche materials vendors that really represent the new frontier of how we're fixing and how we're thinking about constructs and sometimes what's old is new again, right? I mean, bioabsorbable technology has been around for a while, and I think to that extent there's a little bit of barrier of entry that, or maybe burden of proof that these industries need to hold up for us so that we can maybe overcome some old biases around older versions. And that's true for resurfacing and arthroplasty options, maybe around the MTP. You and I were talking about that a little bit. That's certainly true for metal-free fixation. Can you imagine where would we be in orthopedics without metal? And yet, there's an innate patient appeal. We run into that all the time. There's certainly a problem in foot and ankle orthopedics with removal of hardware, and that's an unnecessary burden for a lot of patients where, it's kind of, we're constrained by the technology as we know it. And so I love exploring and really learning what the limitations are, right? Biomechanically and from a bioreactive standpoint, there's a lot to learn there. And I think a lot for them to prove.
We just went through kind of some of my sports partners have used like specifically some of the Osseo pins or screws for some of these subchondral, almost like a subchondral insufficiency fracture, like in the femoral condyle, kind of basically provide like a rebar rafting. Yeah. And it's interesting because, I've had a handful of patients that have had, you can see it on the talus, but even like the ones that are actually more problematic, but fortunately more rare are the tibial ones, where you get that kind of 30, 40-year-old patient that's got, maybe it's like early arthritis, but they're getting that bone reaction, edema, starting to develop a little bit of a cyst. And I think that's an interesting area to think about in terms of rafting or like a rebar kind of thing. I think they call it knee bar, actually.
I love that.
Knee-barr. So that's we'll have to come up with something for the tibia, but it's an interesting area to kind of explore in terms of some of those things, or like intra-articular lesions, or it's like what options we have for fixing. Like some of those areas I think are troublesome sometimes for metal, or areas that you're never going to beat again, right? You have a talus fracture that you're through a medial malleolar fracture or osteotomy, and you don't want to go back to take out that screw, but I just experienced that wholeheartedly, where you're trying to take those screws out when you're doing the total, and there's no other way to get there. And they're definitely in the way. So, I think thinking about it in some of those strategies could be really beneficial.
Yeah, totally agree. And, I am a little esoteric in my kind of fibular fixation practice, having turned to intramedullary nailing for fibulas for a while, and a little bit of a sidebar commentary maybe, but just around the concept of having to take out hardware. And that's, for my practice, has been